Hey, good evening, church. It's Danny with the before promised second Sunday school on Augustine's ordering of affections, rightly ordered loves. There's a few different ways to go about it, but basically ending up in the same place. Um, so this week we're going to get into that the ordering. Hopefully, I get it laid out well enough to be done with it. It's been very interesting. It's been eye opening. It's been as someone else put it to me, a game changer. And we've been discussing this amongst a few guys this week, or over the last few weeks, actually. But anyway, here we go. Augustine on the ordering of loves. Let me start out here. Um, Augustine says, "For a man is never in so good a state as when his whole life is a journey towards the unchangeable life, and his affections are entirely fixed upon that." And it says, "If, however, he loves himself for his own sake, he does not look at himself in relation to God, but turns his mind in upon himself, and so is not occupied with anything that is unchangeable. And thus he does not enjoy himself at his best, because he is better when his mind is fully fixed upon, and his affections wrapped up in, the unchangeable good, than when he turns from that to enjoy even himself." So it's a lot of words there, but what he's doing is he's taking God, God who is love, the ultimate object, the person of our affections, right? So he doesn't necessarily use God or Christ. He just says the unchangeable life, whatever, the ultimate enjoyable thing, which is unchangeable and eternal. Well, I think Augustine takes it as understood that amongst Christians and um, that amongst Christians, it's just understood that that is um, the person of Christ. That is God and God alone. There is no other eternal, unchangeable anything for the Christian, um, or period for that matter. But what he's saying in that first stuff that I read, and let me say this: he uses the terms enjoy and love. Um, Kind of goes back and forth between the terms, no doubt purposely, to put the two together in a way that shows how to love and to enjoy, and that it's basically running in the same vein. Again, in that love towards God first, ultimately, and all things done in love for God and out of love for God. Um, anyway, yeah, pursuing that same direction. He gets into that. We'll word it the way he words it here in a minute, but just wanted to hopefully make that clear. With enjoyment and love, he kind of goes back and forth between the two terms, using them in the same manner. Um, but he says, what we read earlier, a man's never so good in a state as when his whole life is in a journey towards the unchangeable life and his affections entirely fixed upon that. Um, that is as good as it gets, is what he's saying for a man. You will never be better than when your whole life is moving towards unchangeable life, and that all your affections, your loves, are ordered and entirely fixed upon that. And what is that again? Christ. I may just keep doing that to remind myself of what he's actually pointing at. Um, but then he says, even if you're to you enjoy yourself, um, you're not doing it at your best. You can't enjoy yourself fully, um, other than when your mind is fully fixed on and your affections wrapped up in the unchangeable good. So um, there's nothing. There is no, and he passes the God and neighbor and goes right to you. That's how he begins this section, um, saying that you can't even love yourself correctly unless it's directed and geared and moving um, towards God Himself. Excuse me. And he says, let's see, he says, here he says again another quote from Augustine. He says, "So you are to concentrate all your thoughts, your whole life, and your whole intelligence upon him from whom you derive all that you bring." So again, all we have, he's using that same verse, heart, soul, and mind. All we have, whatever we bring to God, whatever our day to day consists of, whatever we give any affection, any piece of us that we give out, anything that we bring to the table, day to day is derived from the Lord in the first place. So he's saying, all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. That's that's all of life, all of Christ for all of life type stuff. We say that stuff quite a bit. It's getting to be popular saying now. He's saying the same exact thing, and yet that all of Christ and all of life, you flip it, the inverse is all of life comes from all of Christ. You don't have any goodness. You don't have anything worth giving out affections to. We don't know how to order. We will never know how to order or our affections apart from that love that God has given us first. Um, anyway, so then he goes on. He says, what it means is that no part of our life is to be unoccupied or to afford room, as it were, for the wish to enjoy some other object, but that whatever else may suggest itself to us as an object worthy of love is to be born into the same channel in which the whole current of our affections flows. And there's that direction thing I was saying. He actually articulates it as a channel in which a current flows, a stream per se. But he just doubles down on the all of life aspect. There's no part of our lives, he says, to be unoccupied, and there's no room to be afforded in our lives or in our affections um, for us to want to love some other object or enjoy some other object. Um, or anything that brings itself. He said he uses anything else that may suggest itself to us. So anything that comes our way and presents itself worthy of love. Um, if we can't fit that in to the direction and the stream and the channel, that current, that flow, again, towards God, right? If we can't fit that in, then it doesn't go at all. And if it does fit, how so? It can't take up a disproportionate piece of our affections. But that again, that ordering, that some get more, some get less, that's coming in a minute. Um, so then he goes on and he says, anything that would claim as due for itself, that love which is properly due to God only, is not really called love. It's more correctly called hate. So in that statement, just an easy one. I'm trying to keep it easy. We can take again the love is love crowd, the LGBT, all that, the alphabet mafia stuff. Anyway, and we can say as Christians, okay, here's the stream of love towards God, of the love of God. Here it is. Now, undoubtedly, especially as Christians, we for sure ought to say that a man cannot love a man, and that love, those affections, I'll say, flow in the direction towards God. We can't. That's going upstream. That's fighting the current of love towards God, because God states what that stuff is. It's an abomination, right? It's contrary to our nature itself. So anyway, and I don't want to even dismiss that there may be affections there, or maybe more rightly called lust there. But again, they're disordered. Simple as that. Disordered. There's more to it. Sure, that can be elaborated, but right here, right now, not the time or place. I just thought hopefully that was a simple enough answer to trying to fit something into that stream, and calling itself love, but actually it's the opposite. It's more correctly called hate. All right, moving on. Um, so then he goes and he moves to, the verse, it's a scripture where it says, the flesh lusts against the spirit and the spirit against the flesh. And he says, the spirit is struggling not in hatred, but for mastery, because it desires that what it loves should be subject to the higher principle. That higher principle, right? God, the love of God, God who is God, right? That's our higher principle. Again, he's not naming names. He's just taking it for granted that we all get the idea of who he's representing when he says that. Um, so that battle between the spirit and the flesh, the lust, um, what the flesh wants, and what the spirit is warring against, that flesh, those issues. But he's saying it's not. You don't fight in hatred of the things that go on in your own heart, of the things that you have affections for, right? but for the mastery of those things. So, because your spirit is desiring that what it loves, what the spirit of Christ in you loves, should be subject to that higher principle of God and God alone, right? Him first, right? So everything else should be subject to the, right? That first and greatest commandment is this: love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. So hopefully, let me take another easy one, right? So, alcohol. And those who hang out with me, we've had this kind of discussion probably more than a few times. But I know what it is prior to really, living a life of faith and really walking with the Lord. Just out there doing what I was doing, saying I was a Christian. But anyway, um, I had plenty to drink, plenty of alcohol that was disordered, right? That affection, that lust, that longing for that was disordered, and all that came with that, right? And at this point in my life, I enjoy a good whiskey. I enjoy a good beer. And yet, I lived so long as a Christian too, not drinking, saying, "Oh, I don't, that doesn't belong. You can't do that. That I don't want that. I know what it's about." Well, no, it was what I was about that was the issue. Not what the whiskey bottle was about, right? That's just sitting there on a shelf, not being about much. It's what was my affections and the disordering that was in my own heart, which made it an issue. And any struggling or any wrestling I may or may not have had as a Christian, even nowadays, today, as I sit around with some guys and friends and we celebrate something and I have a glass of whiskey, or we go out and have a barbecue and I have a beer, right? So those things, my spirit, the spirit of the Lord in me at this point is seeking for mastery of those things, right? So that beer and that whiskey, that affections that I have toward that are are being mastered by the Spirit of Christ in me. Not destroyed, not all that, not anything. There's not a desire um, to win. I don't know how I'm trying to say to win out and say, oh, see, I got all the right things about alcohol figured out. It's a desire to master that thing and to take that affection and put it where it belongs and order it again in that stream. Because does that fit anywhere in the stream flowing towards God? Um, or is it going upstream? What is it doing? And at this point, I can say that the Spirit of Christ in me is growing more so in its mastery of that what was once an issue in alcohol. I don't want to belabor that anymore. I probably took too long on it. Apologize for the tangents. It's just I'm giving you what I got. If it excites me, it's what you guys are getting. Um, and I think I don't know if I want to go too much into where he keeps going with it. I just wanted to lay that much out. But he does say one more thing. He says, getting entangled in the love of lower gratifications, we lag behind, or even worse, we run back from the pursuit of the real and proper objects of enjoyment. Again, what is that? Right? God and God alone, and all things in the flow of the stream towards Him. It all fits together. The argument to me is solid. It's pretty cohesive, and he doesn't use the terms I would say like all of Christ, all of life, but it's inherent. He never points to Christ by name. He never really says God, but again, he's taken it for granted as Christians that we get the idea. Where is this going? Where are we going as people of God? Right? Um, we all understand what's the greatest commandment. The first one's this, right? Love God, love neighbor as yourself. And with that ordering of the commandments, right? It's love God first. Okay. And then it's love neighbor. That's the second one, right? I love God first. Second is love neighbor as yourself. Well, implicit in the second one is that you love yourself. So if you have to love your neighbor as yourself, well, then now you have three, right? Now you have three things to get in order. And it just flows logically. It just makes sense that you have a life to live. You go out every day and there's things that demand your affections, your attention, your time. And for the sake of this, we'll just keep saying affections. We'll all narrow it down to that. And they're not inherently sinful, hopefully. but they're. I have a family. You have families, friends. There's things we enjoy doing, hobbies, hiking, and whatever people are into. Um, and those hold an affection. Those hold a piece of us that we enjoy, we long for. You know, um, and so what do we do with those? It's just first and second commandment is this, and we fall off and figure it out how to order the rest, or we're just a well-ordered person and we just do it because we're good at that. No, for the Christian, it's you take all those 37, 108 different things, whatever it is you got, and we put them in order. Now, um, I don't know if this is going to carry over, as well as I hoped it would, but for me, um, just to articulate that point of putting things in order and how much attention or affection it gets, right? To keep pushing this. So I'm just going to take this and hopefully it strikes a chord, for lack of a better word. But I'm sort of a music geek, right? I just geek out on noises. Anything that makes noise, I'm all about it. Hearing things that I wouldn't think of, and I play guitar and things like that, but hearing sounds that I just would never have come up with, putting notes together that I would have never put together, that stuff excites me. I geek out on it. But in that same vein, like I said, hopefully this carries over and I'm able to articulate it where it fits for people that might not be music geeks. But so you have a series of chords, right? A, B, C, G, D, C, E, whatever you're playing. That's the song, right? And then people play over the song. They play a lead guitar or a solo or whatever they're doing, right? Or bass is playing around those chords and you just hear a bunch of different notes. Well, those notes, more often than not, are the same notes that are contained in the chords of the song, right? So you're playing a G and someone's playing over it. Well, they're playing those notes that fit with the G, whatever notes make up that chord. Um, but and it's great. It's enjoyable. Sounds phenomenal. Well, I watched the tutorial not too long ago, and this guy has a backing track. It's playing a series of chords just over and over, right? And he plays the notes to go with the chords. He plays a lead solo over it, and I mean the guy's just great. So it sounded awesome, right? Something beyond my abilities. And then he starts talking, and he says, "But all those notes fit. You know, they're legal notes. They're lawful to hit within that chord, within that progression. They all fit." And he goes, "But if you change the mode, well, now you have that you're playing most of those same notes, but now you use one or more notes that don't belong really. They're not contained in any of the chords that are going on in the music behind me. But so he goes, but let me show you how it works. So he plays this and he lingers on those oddball notes and just hangs out there, right? And it pulls your ear and you don't like the sound. It's not comfortable. It messes up the music. And he's just sitting on these two notes that don't fit. And he's still playing the ones that do, but he spent a lot of time on the ones that don't really fit. And he goes, but it's all about the duration. So then he goes, and he just goes wild on the guitar, and he plays all those same notes, including the ones that don't quote unquote fit, but he just plays them in passing. So he gets from one note that does fit, and then just kind of taps on this oddball one to get him to push him to the next one that does fit to where the music is going, right? So he's hitting these seemingly unfitting oddball notes. They don't really belong. Not sure how they fit in there, but when he glosses over them, they get him right into the whole time. It was in the stream of where the song is going. He ended up on beat right where the song was going. He knew it, and even though these notes seemingly don't belong, by the rules or whatever, um, it sounded way better. It was way more interesting than the original series of notes that did belong. So what I'm trying to get at is you got these things in your life. So I'm going back. I like whiskey. I like a good cigar, right? Maybe they don't fit for everybody. Maybe nobody likes them or whatever the deal might be. But me, if I'm going out there and I'm having a cigar, which is a little about an hour pursuit at least, right? If I'm doing it every day, middle of the day, sun's up, no work's getting done, kids are in the house, and I'm just doing my thing apart from everybody, well, it's kind of off. It may be something that I can do. It may not be inherently sinful, it might fit, but it's a little off. Why? Because the duration, the amount of affection I've given it, and the things that do belong, family, kids, wife, sitting at the dinner table, watching TV, laughing together, doing life together, those things are getting pushed off. Well, those belong. First, those definitely belong, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say to wrap it up is that that's what I'm getting at. I think that was my hopefully articulating the ordering. Like, sure, I got something like cigars. Now I do my business. I go to work, come home, right? Um, get everybody. Hey, how's it going? Let's get some wood in the fireplace. It's cold. Let's do all these things. Let's help with dinner, help clean dishes, family worship, get everybody to bed, and then I breeze through this cigar real quick for an hour. Once I've done all that, and then I go to bed myself. Right? So it fit, but everything I had was ordered because I love my family more than I love that cigar. I love them enough to sit at family worship. I love them enough to sit at dinner. I love my wife enough to go to bed when she's still awake and we can talk or finish watching the show or whatever. These things have a precedent, right? They belong undoubtedly. But these little things that you can fit in, they're the things that nuance life. They're the things that bring an excitement here and there. Those are the things that add an embellishment to the day, right? I had a great day with my wife, my kids, family, work. All I was, put in some hard work. You're exhausted. You sit down, you read a book, have a glass of whiskey, right? It fits, but how much of me does that stuff get? So again, with that music duration kind of note thing, I may have gone too far with it. May not work, may not come together for the rest of you. But in my head, which is not saying much, it works. So that's what you get. Um, and then, last thing I think, last couple of things is we have some directives in the Bible, not to the left. We don't go to the right, right? And then we have a lot of warnings against backsliding. So again, with this direction, this flow, right? The stream, the current of the love of God is going somewhere. Well, as Christians, we don't take something too far one way, right? To the left. Don't take something too far one way, the other way, right? To the right. We don't go backwards for sure. That's a definite no. There's only one way to go. God has given us parameters. He's given you, he's boxed you in on three sides. So as a Christian, it's like, oh well, okay, that's too far over there, and that's too far over there, and I can't go backwards. So can what I'm doing and what's requiring or what's vying for attention and affection, can I bring that forward? Can I move forward towards God and towards the love of Christ with this thing, whatever it may be? Um, and then just to kind of solidify how everything would fit under that banner, right, of love of God first. Um, it's a singular love. Love is for the Christian. Love in reality, ultimately, love is singular. It's a singular love. God is love, right? Um, and every other love, every other affection is subordinate to that, which is just to say that there is nothing you can call love that's outside of how God defines it and the parameters God has set as to what love is, right? He is love himself. Um, and then everything that can be, every aspect of our life that can be is increasingly or diminishingly subordinate to that one singular love of God, to God himself, to Christ whom came, right? Greater love has no man than this, to lay down his life. He did it. He did it for us. It's all one singular motion, forward, inward, upward. If you're not doing it, whatever you're doing, whatever we're doing, moving in that direction, then don't do it. It's worthless. Even if you're doing the right things. Spending time with your family, great. Spending time with your wife, cool. Um, Hanging out with neighbors, cool. But is it moving towards the direction of God, who is love, incarnate in the flesh, right, in Christ? Is it doing that? And yeah, it's been a longer video than the last one. Man, I thought I was going to cut it shorter, but once I get to the lips to moving, I guess it all just comes out. But yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. Hopefully, it was helpful. Hopefully, that music thing didn't take you guys off on some weird tangent with me. But anyway, again, hope it's beneficial. Hope you enjoy it. Love you guys. Have a good one. Bye.